On today's episode, we have another amazing guest. From his lettering to his tweets, and from his tweets to the TEDx stage, we have our guest, Eso Tolson. Eso Tolson is a Memphis-based multi-disciplinary artist with a passion for design, strategy, hand lettering, and branding. Through his work, Eso seeks to empower and celebrate individuals and communities using his skills to create projects based on inspiration and joy. His clients include Coca-Cola, Best Buy, Teach for America, and social activist comedian Franchesca Ramsey. His unique lettering style has earned him recognition from peers and major lettering outlets, such as GOODTYPE, TYPISM, and TYPEONE Magazine. In addition to his professional work, Eso is an accomplished speaker and panelist, having given talks and discussions on topics related to design, art, and social impact. He was also a 2021 TEDx speaker, sharing his story and philosophy around the topic, Less Grind, More Chill. His most recent project, the Chill Mode Project, is a collection of projects curated to create relaxing environments for people to unwind and de-stress. When he's not creating lettering work, he enjoys exploring his passion for music, plants and flowers, and a good bottle of wine. Here is Eso Tolson. All right, I think we're good. Do you have anything special going on this week or anything for Juneteenth?
Actually putting together a little soiree, if you will, at the house, getting a couple of friends together, having like a wind down, but like a turn up at the same time. So it's a little of both, but at the very least, I got that going on. So like planning that for the weekend.
That's dope.
Yeah. So
have you done that before, or is that like a first time for you to like house
no,
warm?
so I hosting one, yeah, the first time. But I've been celebrating Juneteenth like that for at least the last maybe 5 to 6 years. With people just kind of coming together, different spots, different locations. But yeah, I've been doing that for a minute though.
That's good. I always think that's it. That it seems weird that we're now classifying that as like a holiday. Like it never was something that when I was younger I would have ever thought that would be a thing that would be like, hey, let's talk about this. And then now to see people like celebrating it and like making it special, it's really cool. Even just getting together with other people and having a good time and thinking about where we've come from, I think is great.
Absolutely. I know that they've been doing it in Texas for a while, but like for the rest of, us, like it's a newer thing, but it's always dope to celebrate, So.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm going to do this year. I've just been working, just trying to make the ends meet. We're going to go ahead and hop into that first question. I am excited to kind of get this kicked off. I've been excited to have you on. I've been a follower of your work for a long time.
Oh, man.
Just from the lettering when you were doing that at the beginning, now to whatever you've evolved into. Hopefully we get into that a little bit. The first question is, what were the first ways you expressed yourself creatively that you can remember?
I think it was probably dance. I think that I can remember it was dance and art. So fun fact, my nickname from one side of my family is Lil Wig. Okay, quick story. So, my biological father, his name is Wig because family said he moved like a wigwam, like the little, he just kept moving, right? And so naturally, being his son, Lil Wig, and so, but I also did the same thing. Like I would just be moving my body, like how you just be moving, or you be talking, and then like you be swaying from side to side, you be patting your feet or like whatever. So I would just be moving. And then that translates into dance. So like I would always just be like moving my body and dancing, like to just express, So that's
like I gotta get it out.
Yeah, you gotta get it out. You just gotta get that, energy out. That's probably the first mode of expression that I had as a kid, just dance.
Yeah, that's cool. So was it ever like you would go to dance classes, or was it just you in your living room
A
just
little
popping and
bit.
locking?
A little bit of both, actually. So,
Okay.
like, as a kid, like my older cousins who are a few years older, like, we did tap classes, like, for a
Okay.
quick second. I had to be like all of like 7 years old. But I did that. I think I wanted. I don't know. I think I just wanted to be on stage. Like I think I just wanted to be on stage doing something. So like, what's gonna get me there? Tap. We're gonna dance. We're gonna do so.
What do
Those were
y'all want?
things. Yeah, something. I'm like
Yeah.
something's gonna get me to be seen. And so the first mode of expression was definitely dance and movement for sure.
I just remember when I was we'd be at my grandma's house with like all my cousins. I have what, 3 other cousins. We were all born the same year within like 4 months of each other. So we were
Hmm.
like super close. But I remember like being at my grandma's house, turning on music and like hitting the Soul Train line in the living room.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like it had the plastic on the couch. You couldn't sit on the couch, but you could dance in the living room.
Yes, that right there. Yep. Me and my
But it
cousin.
was, yeah, it was always a good time. And I definitely feel you on the couldn't sit down. I feel like I'm like that now, where like I'm fidgeting. Now I know it's more ADHD, but before it was just like, what's wrong with me? I can't stay still. Like,
Mm-hmm. Same. I'm still one that I'm very expressive in my movements, like big gestures and things like that, and like you say, just fidgeting. Like I have that. So
yeah,
yeah.
dope. All right, we're gonna get into the next question. I know you've stepped foot on a TEDx stage. So I wanted to ask you, what was that experience like? Like even preparing for it, what did you have to go through to prepare for that kind of thing?
So that that was quite an experience. Like I won't forget it. I remember when I was asked to be a speaker, and the team was so gracious. They already had like, so we want you to talk about like these things. Like they already had like ideas that they thought I would be great at speaking about, and I was talking about rest. And I'm like, okay, let's lean into that. Just chill. Chill mode. And what's interesting is that when you're a TEDx speaker or just a TED speaker, you are at that point the expert on that thing, or it's like positioned
Mm,
that you have a great knowledge or awareness of that thing, and you're like the person to share about this
yeah.
thing. And so um, on the front end, it was a little daunting because it's like, oh, so now I'm like this expert all of a sudden about this. And so there's no script, you're not reading lines. It's not like you're just remembering something that, like a play, it's not like
Hmm.
you're learning lines. Like all of this is coming from you. So like you're writing your ideas down, you're sharing, research or your opinions and all of that. And so in a way, it was a bit overwhelming from the
Hmm.
sense of like, this is about me and my perspective.
Hmm.
Like I think me sitting with that and that people were willing to listen to my perspective and that be held in such high regard to be on a platform like TEDx was like a thing that I really just had to sit with one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, like, all that has to happen before you do the work, like before you actually like write out how this is going to go. And so I had a 10-minute segment, and you have to basically talk for 10 minutes. There's no cue cards. There's no like you have to just remember it and just like give this talk. And
Jeez.
so it was a lot. It was a lot, but honestly, it helped me to really, you know how if you're a teacher, I forget the saying, but when you're a teacher, you're always a student or something like that. Like the fact that I was able to teach, so to speak, my perspective and how I saw rest meant that I really had to know what I was talking about, you know, for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it in a sense forced me, or at the very least helped me to really do some checks and balances. Like, is this what I really believe? It's like, yeah, okay, all right. Is this how I really feel? Yes. And then really just telling my story to the people. And so it was definitely an amazing and incredible experience that started off as like, oh my God, you know, but then the reward really just being able to share my thoughts with people, and then really understanding my my perspective and really holding it in high regard. So that's been the reward for sure.
That's dope. Yeah, and the talk was on rest, right?
Yeah, the title was Less Grind, More Chill.
Got you. Okay. Do you have like, what was what perspective did you have to gain to get there? Like, what is there a story from like that got you to like, let's have this be my platform?
Yeah, the story essentially that I didn't even realize. So getting into the talk, I made all kind of epiphanies and discoveries. Like, oh, this is why I feel like that. And the talk evolved for sure. Like, it started here, and what ended up being on stage is not how everything started. Like, it was a progression for sure. But one of the things that helped me, that I ended up sharing, was going back to college. College is rough, you know. I don't think we really talk about how college puts you in this. They prepare you for that grind that you never can get out of. You know, if you're doing like 14, 15 credit hours, and all of these professors act like they're the only class you got. And there's all this homework, there's all this studying, and, you know, you're cramming because you're tired and you're exhausted, and you only ate, you know, once today, and that was like a Hot Pocket or this other thing.
Or ramen noodles.
Right. And so, like, there's all of these, like, factors that are in play, and I got to a point where I was just stressed out. And I remember coming home from working late one night in the computer lab, and I remember getting up and like my head was throbbing. I was basically bedridden the next day because I was so exhausted. But before that, you know, I was, you know, doing the grind. You know, I was not doing these activities, not hanging out with friends because I really need to buckle down and, you know, handle this. And at, you know, a certain point, I was handling a lot of these things, but I also didn't have a lot of room for chill. You know, I wasn't getting proper rest. I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't really taking care of myself. I was just focused on making sure that I was getting work done because that's what I had in front of me. But when that morning I couldn't get out of bed happened, I was like, oh no, we ain't doing this.
That's good. That's good. You realize that.
Like, and I talk about that. I'm like that. I realized that like in college, and that was the beginning of the shift. I was like, I'm not going to be able to operate like this. And so, you know, I got my work done, but I wasn't in a place of where like, you know, that, you know, just trying to like make it happen, you know, doubling down. It was like, I lived. It was like, no, we finna go to, you know, this hangout. You know, I'm gonna hang out with friends, and I'm gonna get the work done, but I'm not gonna let it be so consuming of my life that my life is just this. So Yeah.
For sure. I never even thought about that, college being the foundation for that grind mentality. Because it is. Like, there's a piece of it where you're like, well, someone's giving me, if you had student loans or you had, like, someone's giving me money to have to be here. I have to take it seriously. And this is the rest of my life.
Yep.
And you just don't. You're 18. Like, what do you expect me to do? I'm going to take it serious. And I had a lot of friends who were like sick, and you were like sick all the time. And I just, as an adult, I realized that's what burnout looks like. Like that's at that point, you're not not even alive. You're not, because you're not even tapped into what's going on in your body.
Yep.
So you ate trash, you didn't sleep, and then you are being asked a million things from these classes and these teachers. Yeah. I ended up getting high blood pressure during that time period.
What?
And like, yeah, it was bad. And I was like, they put me on some medication, and they were like beta blockers. So they really mess with your like personality and your mood. So I was just like kind of down after that. And then when I graduated, I was like, I gotta do something. I gotta make a change. So I worked out, started figuring out how to eat, and then it ended up going away. So I was good after that, but it was bad. And I never attributed it to college, because college was supposed to be this like positive experience that took me from being a high school kid to an adult. And it's like, that's a lot to put on something.
It's the gateway to stress, being stressed out. Like, it's the gateway drug, if you will, to full burnout as an adult.
Yeah.
I didn't make that connection until I started doing the talk, because like in my adult life, basically after, college, I was pretty chill. I would have a glass of wine, at the end of the day, or I would like have, soothing music, or I would get into situations that seemed like it was about to stress me out or like take me over the edge. And then I was just like diffuse. I'm like, oh, I can't go here. And I didn't realize that a lot of that was attributed to what happened in college and why I viewed the world, or why I would navigate things the way that I did. The talk helped me realize that, the reason why I'm like, we need to rest and all that is because of what happened to me in college. So, yeah.
What'd you end up going to college for?
So I went to Memphis College of Art, and it was for design arts, specifically graphic design, with emphasis in graphic design.
Got you. Okay. Do you feel like it was worth it?
Yes. I'll say yes. So I'm not originally from Memphis. I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois.
Oh, really? That's where my mom's from. My mom's family's all from there. Yeah.
People don't be knowing about East St. Louis. Yeah. But that's where I'm from originally. And so I went to a junior college there. Shout out to Florissant Valley. I got a really strong art really training from there. And I just continued education. And so that's what got me here in Memphis. I'm currently in Memphis now. But Memphis College of Art is where I continued education. And I'll say yes, it was definitely worth it. Mostly because it was about me getting here to Memphis. Okay. More than it was about the college itself. The college was the way to get me here in Memphis, for sure. Great people, great experiences with the people that I met and built with over time, and still have those contacts, today. Great, yeah. And so that's what that's what college is about, right? College is really about that. Like, a lot of the stuff you can get like that from somebody who may do like an independent study with a professor, or YouTube University or whatever. Like, and then especially now, like everything is available. Like, college is almost obsolete. There's space for that, but it was about the connections. It's about the people. Like, that's That's why you're paying all that money. Like Yale is expensive, not because like they have the best teachers, but because you're going to school with the next president. You're going to school with potentially the next CEO of whatever this company. You're going there with the people who are going to create the next big piece of technology, and you have these like that's really what college is about.
1,000,000%. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I've been ruminating on, like. Because I don't use my degrees anymore, because I went to school for engineering. So that's one thing that I was kind of disappointed about, is like once I realized college was about networking, I realized I was in a bad spot because I didn't go on. Like I spent 6 years with people, and now it's like, now I got to go. Do I got to take 6 more years now and figure out like new people in the industry that I'm in? Yeah. And that's part of why I do this podcast, because it's about meeting people and like making those connections. Yeah. So networking is a huge part of it, and college was that stepping stone for a lot of people.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I feel like this is the conversation that I've been having with myself. I'm so glad you said it and you brought it up.
Yes.
That's dope. Okay, we're going to go what's one of your favorite comfort foods?
Macaroni and cheese, bar none, favorite, baked. Okay,
baked. Yeah.
Don't give me them shells and cheese. Like baked macaroni out the oven. Yes.
Does your mom have to make it? Who has to make it for you, or is it?
So
do you make
it? As long as it's good, you know what I'm saying. I believe in all mac and cheese. You know what I'm saying. So like my aunt Jackie, she used to make like a whole pan just for me, right? Oh. I know it's serious. My mom makes a great one. My grandma makes a really great one. I'm just a fan. You know, if you can make really good macaroni and cheese, you know, I see you. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna discriminate, you know, from that. Like, oh, it just gotta be. Nah, I'm you know, equal opportunity. If it's good,
that's great.
You know, I'm good with you. So yeah.
Because I know a lot of people have their favorites. They're like, yeah, I won't eat it if my cousin makes it, and it's like, that, if it's good, it's good. Like it don't really matter at that point.
I don't discriminate. I don't do that.
Mine's is always chicken and dumplings. My grandma used to make chicken and dumplings for like holidays. So like Thanksgiving, we would have, that would be one of the sides, would be chicken and dumplings. And she would hand make the dumplings and like spend all day boiling the broth. Like it's just one of those things that's so nostalgic for me that like after she's passed, I still make it on Thanksgiving for my son and like my family. Cause I'm like, these things matter. Like
they matter.
We act like the food doesn't like give to our souls and give to like, it carries on that culture that we love so much.
No, it's called soul food for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
1,000,000%.
Absolutely.
I've been seeing a camp of people trying to say like, we should move on from soul food. How do you feel about that?
So there's this segment, you know, Evelyn of the Internets. You know her.
I don't. Yeah.
So, dope content creator.
Okay.
She and I forget her name. Dang it. They have a segment through PBS on YouTube called "Say It Loud," right? And they talk about a lot of like Black cultural things that affect like Black people in America, from like naming conventions to food representation, or you know, just the Pan-African, you know, just all of that, right? And they have one on food, and the conversation around it is where so much of identity is tied into food, especially when we talk about different generations. And so, like, if you got your Uncle Roy, right, who grew up, you know, he all of like 73 right now, who grew up a very specific way around food. And then you got like the Gen Z era who was like, oh, well, this kale salad. And it's like judging, this person. And so there's a lot of nuance that comes with, identity, especially for Black people concerning food. And so it's one way to have the conversation around like celebrating some of the challenges that Black people have gone through. We literally had scraps like that was considered trash, and we turned it into a delicacy, like where people around the world are like, "Ooh, let me taste these greens," or let me, chitlins, or all these things that were literal trash that we turned into a work of art. And so there's one way to like celebrate that. And it's like, now that there's more options and more opportunity, what does it look like to have a cornbread that's made with a different kind of milk? Let's say it's or you know what I mean. So I think that there's a something to be said about both of those worlds. I mean, let's talk about Juneteenth weekend. That's celebrating a very specific thing in Black history, and I'm sure they have very specific food that they were celebrating with, on that, on that day. And so, I think, I'm still eating all the soul food, right? But I'm also, I like a good avocado toast. You know what I'm saying? I like a really good, flounder.
Yeah.
But I think it's really just about acknowledging one part and not looking down on it. I think it's mostly the attitude. It's like, oh, that's so beneath me.
That's
it's
fair.
like, is it? Let's really talk about it. What would you have been eating 80 years ago? If you were in a certain situation. And so I think it's mostly just the attitude around it. You don't have to be so condescending. Like, it's food. If it's good, eat it.
You can move right past. You don't have to grab none. But it's that uppity mentality to where like we're above that. We're moving past that, and it's like that those foods got us here. Like, they got your genes to this point to have you existing. So we gotta honor them, and give them a little respect. So
absolutely.
I just always find it funny. I'm like, why are we arguing about this? There's so many, like, you could go do something else. Like, we don't have to. That's how I feel about the internet sometimes. I'm like, we do not have to talk about this right now. We could go do the thing we love.
That's it. They want to be heard. They want to have a voice. I get it. I understand it. But come on.
1,000,000%. One thing I did want to touch on is your journey or your path to get here. So when I first found you were doing a lot of lettering, and it seems like now you're more leading with a lot of like your commentary or your words. So what led to that transition? And do you miss, like, I know you're still lettering, but is there a reason that you kind of moved on from that to what you're doing now?
So, like I said, I went to school for design. And when I graduated, I went straight into freelancing. And so, shout out to all my freelancers. That journey is, what it is. And so I was doing that and, designing flyers, posters. And then when I was able to do stuff for like organizations, campaigns and things like that. And even though design is a creative job, it is still art for somebody else. I didn't have room to have like a what I call a PP, a personal project. Everything had to pay a bill. Everything had to take care of something financially. And so I didn't have as much wiggle room to be creative in the way that, to explore, and clients, they need a sure thing. So they don't want to take too many risks and, let's try this. It's like, nah, I know this work. I'm paying you to do this. And so lettering was basically my response to not having any personal project for me, for
Got
myself.
you. Okay.
It wasn't until I became an in-house designer for a local organization here in Memphis that I had room to even think about a personal project or just stuff that didn't require a meeting. It didn't require other people's opinions or a budget or any of those things. It could just be something that I could do. That, you know, I didn't have to answer anybody. I could just have ideas, do it, and that's it. And so with my first check from being at that organization, I went to an art store, got me some, you know, Micron pens, got me some Sharpies, got a sketchbook, and literally just started sketching ideas. And a lot of my design work was type heavy, you know, and so naturally just drawing the letters was like an easy transition to hand lettering. And so I would just letter anything, you know. I would be out, you know, with friends, and I would do a piece out with friends, you know. Or if something else is going on, I was like, oh, okay, well, let's do this. And I didn't really have a style per se, like that first year and a half. Like I was just excited to, you know, be getting, you know, my stuff off. Like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and I just had pages of just letters and words, and I was shared on Instagram as like an accountability type of thing. It's like, you know, I'm gonna show up every day, you know, and I'm gonna post this and do this. And that was when like lettering was like huge. This was like 2013, 2014, 15, right there. And so, you know, you had all the really pretty, you know, elaborate, you know, making letters out of coffee beans, and you know, we do like all of that, you know, sparkles, and I'm like, ooh, this is nice. And so I saw those things, but I was like, oh, I kind of want to say something different. I want to express something different. And so I have a love for graffiti. I love you know, the hand painted signs on like the side of buildings or on cars, you know, something that's very industrial. I love that, as well as I love calligraphy. So my first pieces, when I started to develop a style, came from my love of those things. And so been doing those things like ever since then. But I also wanted my stuff to say something. I didn't want my stuff to just be pretty, you know. That's cool, and there's a place for that. In fact, there's so many people that are doing that, and people love it. I love it. I wanted to add to the lexicon of things to, you know, pull from or, you know, to inspire. And so I would share those thoughts that I would have, and my love for, like, you know, hip hop, you know, urban life, black culture. I wrapped all of that up into my lettering, whether it was the style or the colors or what it was actually saying. And so what I was saying was just though. Did you hear that? Okay. Okay. I think so. It's. I think a thunderstorm is on the way. So okay, we should be good.
Okay.
I couldn't go like act like that didn't happen. I was just okay. But no.
You're talking about you wanted it to say things. You wanted it to mean more.
Yes. So I wanted my work to always say something, and it got to a point where people were resonating with what I was just saying just as much as they were the art. And I remember the first time I had just posted words, you know, took a screenshot of something I did, and it got just as much like traction, just as much interest as the art that I was doing. And so I was doing both equally at one point. And during quarantine, when everybody was in the house, I would continue to share my perspective about the things that were going on at the time, whether it was like the injustice that was happening in the streets, or just the idea of, the pandemonium. And it's like, let's center ourselves, let's, be grateful for the thing, just things like that. And so people was, really resonating with my words. And so it transitioned from my artwork saying something to my words saying a very specific thing that people were resonating with. Yeah. And so it was to the point where, 60% of the stuff was my lettering and 40 was, other things. And then it shifted to where most of the things that I was doing was about sharing inspiration, affirmations, hope, motivation, things like that. And I just recently did a poll in my stories on Instagram of like, the people who follow me now, what do they know me for? And almost overwhelmingly, it was like, oh, because you be inspiring me. Oh. You be helping me. And so cool. I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that particular journey of how it started to just be lettering, and people really resonated with the words, so much so that I just started screenshotting.
I said like tweets, yeah.
Yeah.
You probably started the movement of people just posting tweets.
Maybe maybe I was early on in that, yeah. But it kind of just happened like that.
Do you ever feel any imposter syndrome when you're giving people inspiration and then maybe you don't feel that way for the day or something?
That's a great question. So all of the all of it, like maybe 97% of it is for me. Oh, okay. I started doing like little quotes and, sharing inspiration, when I was on Facebook, heavily. So like 2010, 2012, sharing thoughts on there. Some of the tweets that I've posted have been like rehashing stuff that I've done on Facebook, really, on this day you had said this, and I was like, oh, that was pretty good. And so I would like, rehash it, take some words out and, cause, but, it's been, I'll say interesting as I share those things, because I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, but I feel like after I share it and it's out there, the response, I'm still getting used to the response of how people are moved and affected by the things that I share. For me, it's like, I need this because sometimes I hadn't had a day that, felt like it was about to take me out and I can't get in that headspace. And so how do I find the silver lining? And I'm like, if this could help me, let me just share that with somebody else. And so I can just, go on another day. But I would hear people, people have, DM'd me, their responses, and like, they'll be like, you just don't know how much you have helped me in this particular season, or they were going through something, or they were like, I needed to hear this right now, type of stuff. And it's still very overwhelming because I'm like, me? But also, I'm like, yeah, I said, and so it's interesting. I'm still getting so fun fact, like, I don't know how long you've been watching or sharing, like, seeing the journey, but in 2022, last year, I'll say probably March, I had gotten up to like maybe 17,000, which is like a huge, right, following of people. And that's just been over, really the past 8 years. I don't know how long I've been on Instagram. But from 17,000 in March to the end of that year, and I have over 100,000 followers. Like, I gained over 80,000 followers in a year.
That's insane.
And it was literally because of words that I was sharing. I got overwhelmed. Like, a lot of people don't know this. So, like, I hide my likes.
Okay.
And I didn't start hiding them until they got, like, really big. I'm like, oh, like, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I, like, something in the algorithm. I don't know why people were, like, coming to me the way they were last summer. But I have a post that is, like, over 500,000 likes.
Wow. For your words. That's crazy.
Just from words.
Yeah.
And I have a few that were like a couple of 100,000. This is when I had maybe 25,000 at the time. Like, it was growing. I was getting thousands of follows a day. I was getting thousands of, and so I was overwhelmed by a lot of it. I'm like, is this me that's doing this? And so to turn it full circle, or like to the point of like imposter syndrome, I think I didn't realize the impact of the words that I was sharing. I think for me, it was just, I can not be in a bad mental place, so I can keep going, so I can stay upbeat and positive, just for me. And I'm like, well, let me share this with, the world on Twitter and Instagram. But I didn't know that it was just as impactful to the people, so much so that they were like
showing up.
Yeah. And so I think that may be something. I don't know. Maybe not imposter syndrome. I'm trying to think of other words, but there is something.
Yeah. There is a feeling there.
Yeah. For sure.
But if you're doing it for you, like if these words were to inspire you, then there's no reason to feel impostery, because it's literally just the fuel for yourself. And if other people resonate with it, then they resonate with it, and that's just how it is. It's not you acting like you didn't have to act like someone else to get where you were going. You were you.
Yeah,
which is the best way to be when in that situation.
And so the other side of that, right, is I was getting used to getting all these likes. And so then it was like, if I, said something that was, very dear to my heart that I was thinking, and I put it out there, and then like nobody really, respond to it. Now I'm like, so it's like both of those,
it's a tightrope. Yeah, because that's how I feel. Sometimes I'll be like, this is my best work. And like, especially on like client projects, and you'll put it over, and I was like, this is the perfect solution. This works great. And then you give it to them, and they're like, no, not actually none of this. Let's go over here. And you're like, ooh, that hurt a little bit. But it's like, when you're doing this kind of work, you got to realize the ego kind of has to take a back seat. Because if people are looking for something, then they got to feel themselves within that too. And if they don't, that's okay. But how do we get to help you and give you what you're looking for? So it's tough. That's why the PPs, the personal projects, are so important.
Highly recommended. Get you
highly
a PP.
Recommended. That you a PP. All right, I got one super random one.
Okay.
If you could go on a road trip with anyone famous, who would it be and where would you go?
That's a great question. I feel like there's so many people.
You could take three. We'll give you three. You could take three
Yeah.
people with you.
Okay. Janelle Monáe. I
Okay.
think one, Janelle Monáe, but also I think she's so intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
She seems really cool, and I would like to just hang out. What do you be thinking? Because I mean, she's super creative.
Mm-hmm.
She's she got spunk, she got attitude, she got like very strong opinions. She's proud, like all that. I'm like, yeah, I would just like to have a conversation with you and travel. Like, you so dope. So her. I think I would. I don't know about a road trip. I'm like, okay. I'm like people I would like to meet, and then I'm like, I want to be in a car with them for like 8 hours. Like, I don't know if I'm trying to do that with them, but I think
maybe it's flying. Maybe it's the airport, and you could dodge off for part of the flight or something.
Maybe that. I'd like to talk to Erykah Badu.
Okay.
Like, just have a conversation with her. Because again, super interesting, super creative.
I just want to know what's going on in her head.
Like what's like what makes you tick? Like what makes you think? And I feel like she'd be a really dope conversationalist.
She put you on game that you never expected. It's like, where did you get this from?
Yes, yes. Like wisdom, but also just like real cool and chill.
Yeah.
So her, and I think I think the third one, I like to talk to Questlove. I just like to, and for all the same reasons, super interesting, wise, a nerd, for just music and culture and all those things. And so a road trip, airplane, I feel like I could just, listen. I feel like we'll have a good, great conversation.
For sure. It's interesting that you picked all like people in that music vein. Yeah. Where would you guys go? Where would you? Is there a place that you love, or you really want to go to?
I feel like anywhere where there's water, if that makes sense. So like,
okay, like a beach. I was like, wait, what apocalyptic places are you going to?
No, like where there is like a river, pond, lake, ocean, something like that. I feel like I have to be near. I've always lived near water.
Okay.
Like the idea of landlocked sounds really sad to me. I can't live in like Houston, because Houston's near some water, right? Dallas, I'm sure there's lakes and things. Maybe, I don't know. I ain't been there, but I think anywhere where there's like water, so it could be a beach for sure. Okay. Maybe France. Maybe like, I don't know, French Riviera or something.
Okay. Have you been to France before?
No, I haven't. Not yet. Okay. It's on the bucket list. Everybody that's gone tells me you need to go. Specifically Paris. Like oh yeah, no, you would love Paris.
That's dope. Yeah, I think that's a great little group there. I feel like you'd be like, we probably need to extend this trip. Like there's more that we can talk about. That sounds like a sabbatical.
Yes,
of knowledge. Questlove has always been super. I feel like all three of those people are people that I feel like I don't know much about, but like there's something about you where you want to know more. Like I don't know if it's like their demeanor or like how you see them in the public, but there's just something that calls to you that you want to know more about. They're kind of mysterious, I would say. But yeah, those people would be so dope. Like I feel like that'd be such a fun, you would learn so much. I feel like I would evolve after that trip. I would be like, I'm the next level of myself.
All those things, all of
Yeah.
those things. Like like that's literally why those particular, because we don't really know much about them.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a lot more that meets the
Hmm.
eye, and I would like to have like a sneak peek at some of what that could be.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Have you ever been to the Roots picnic?
It's terrible. I have not. I haven't
I
done
haven't
it.
either.
It's
I've.
like
It
all of
sounds
those
like
things
it's
are
a
on
place
my
you have to
list.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like each year, it seems to, it happens every year,
Yeah.
and it sneaks up on me, and I'm like, oh, I'm ill prepared again to do this. But definitely the Roots picnic, I would love to go. Like, I think it's the 20th. No, is it the 20th? They had an anniversary
Yeah, I think it was last
recently.
month.
Was it
Yeah,
last month?
I think it was last
I
month.
think it was the 20th anniversary, some kind of anniversary, and I'm like, oh man, the lineup is always super dope.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
And there's a
a lot of
possibility you
places.
could meet Questlove.
Yeah. I have to get back on that side of the states, middle America,
Yeah.
mid South where I'm at. It's stuff that happens here, but like I guess getting on one of the coasts where a lot of those kind of festivals are happening, I think is
Hmm.
key. So yeah.
Dope. Okay. We're going to get ready to wrap up a little bit. So
Okay.
I always ask, this being a podcast about creativity, I always ask this as the last question. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity to me means unique, something different.
Okay.
Me and uh, my business partner at the time were talking about creativity, and she had her dad who would celebrate her, and say, "Oh, you so creative, I can't even draw, a stick figure, type thing." And she would say, "But you are creative, Dad. I got my creativity, from you." Because that was something that we talked about, and I resonated with that, And so it's like you see a portrait of I don't know, a person, like,
Hmm.
and it looks really nice, or you see a bouquet of flowers, and it's like that looks really nice, especially if it's like photorealistic, if they
Yeah.
painted it, it looks really nice. Now, how creative is it? Is the question. So you have questions about all those things, um, as far as like, how can I be more creative? How can I? It's like, well, let's see what's here and let's see what we can add to it.
Yeah.
So that's how you get a Basquiat. That's how
Hmm.
you get a Duchamp.
Yeah.
That's how you get all these artists that are thinking about it differently. And so I think creativity is thinking about something differently than what's already out there. And a lot of the
It's almost like
time,
a different perspective, right? Like think
yes,
of it like maybe
yeah,
even looking at it from a different angle kind of thing.
yep. And so a
Okay.
lot of the times it's just about um, really it being 1% difference. And a lot of the times that's the part that you add to it.
Hmm.
So like you could do it, but like if you adding you into it, that's what makes it different from anybody else that would do the same thing that you're doing. So
Got
make
you.
sure you're putting you into it, and I think that'll always make it different, which makes it creative.
Dang, that's a good one. I follow this there's this artist, her name's CJ Henry. She does a
Mm,
lot of photorealistic stuff. And like people will ask her like, how did you become so creative? And she's like, the stuff that I make is nowhere close to creative. I'm just like, I'm literally just like kind of copying what I'm seeing on down to paper. So there's not like a lot of elements of creative, but the way that she, like her shows and the way that she puts it out there, you can tell that's where she gets excited. And that's where the creativity is, like in the art shows. I think she went to, I think it was London, and she bought a church and refabbed a church for just the presentation of one of her art shows, and had like white flowers falling from this, like white roses falling from the rafters at all times. And then I think the piece's theme was like flowers. So most of it was like, I think they were pressed. So she had like some impression art. And basically she had that like hung around that inside the chapel of that church. It was sick. And I was like, this is where her creativity lies in what she's doing. And sometimes the art is just kind of how you make it. Like, that's how I feel about graphic design. Graphic design is just like, I do this to sometimes make money, but in the presentation of it is where I get to like have fun with it, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So, I just love the question of like, because I feel like creativity is different. No matter where you go, people just have like this different view of it, and it's one of those words that you can't put a finger on because it might have a million definitions. So,
yeah, great question.
I appreciate. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you being on. I've had a great time. Let everyone know. Do you have anything that you're working on that you want to share or tell us about?
Like, I think right now, I'm still in that transition, but what I can say is that there'll be a lot more words that I'll be sharing very soon.
So follow you on your socials. Where can they find you? On social media, on the web? Yes,
you can follow me everywhere at Cool Urban Hippie. So Twitter, Instagram, if it's something else I'm on, it's definitely Cool Urban Hippie. So,
all right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Eso, for spending some time with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Creative Questions. Like, comment, or subscribe to allow us to keep making more episodes. I appreciate you for being here, and I'll see you on the next one.